We just saw the crowds that were drawn to Lollapalooza over the weekend.
Lollapalooza was over the weekend?
Yeah, I just wanted to show this crowd that broke records for highest attendance of any headliner at Lollapalooza for Olivia Rodrigo. And this picture, it literally just looks like a shag carpet.
It does.
So many people. I don't know the number, but first off, I'll say having a crowd at a music festival is not the same thing as selling out a tour.
Correct.
Yep.
And this has come up consistently on Timcast IRL, where Tim is talking about how Gen Z artists or Gen Z bands, or even millennials in a lot of cases, can't sell out stadiums, and they're having trouble even selling out arenas in some cases. Olivia Rodrigo being the exception to that rule as a Gen Z pop star.
To that point, though, Tim talks about, Tim does say that kind of stuff, but selling out stadiums has only been like, that was only something that happened a lot like in the 80s and early 90s, right? Like I saw Metallica and Guns N' Roses and Faith No More in a stadium, right? But like when I saw Metallica on the Black Album tour, it was the same tour, but I saw I saw them in the Black Album tour when they were just doing their own thing, an evening with Metallica, and that was at an arena, 20-something thousand or something like that, around 20,000. There's not been, and Metallica was, at that time, Metallica had really kind of solidified itself as, the biggest heavy act going and one of the biggest acts in the world, right? There's not always been a situation where individual artists can sell out stadiums. Stadiums are only the most elite and top level artists. Selling out big arenas, it's like your civic centers, like your, places where your basketball teams would play, or your, where you'd have like the monster
maybe like the
trucks.
Target Center in Minnesota.
Yeah, those kind of places, like 15 to 25,000. That's still gigantic, and if you can sell those out, you're still elite level artist. It's when it's like if you're talking about, they're playing sheds, right? Sheds, you can have a shed, which is the open back arenas. Usually those places are only open during the summertime. Usually those will they'll seat like between 5 and 10,000, and then you can get 20,000 if the lawn is full. But usually those places will have shows that are between 7 and 10,000. And so like the idea that like it used to be very common for artists to sell out stadiums, I feel like that's a misnomer, right? There have always been artists that could sell out stadiums and stuff. And during the 80s, when there were fewer options fewer entertainment options, maybe it was more common. But from like the early 90s throughout the aughts, like only the biggest bands could sell out actual stadiums.
Yeah, that might just be like an outdated.
WWE does stadiums for WrestleMania, but otherwise it's
that might be a thing of the
but
past.
Monday Night Raw is arenas, and that's the kind of thing. It's like Monday Night Raw, the place where they would have Monday Night Raw. That's where Motley Crue would play, or Metallica would play, or Pantera would play, or
now they're doing two-night pay-per-views because there's too much money to be made for them to do like the big four, like SummerSlam and WrestleMania on 2 nights. So they just did 2 nights at, was it MetLife, or it was like 50,000 people. It was like 55,000 one night, 60,000 the other night. Now there's like
that's huge.
There's the WWE decimal that you have to move, which is like if they say it's 60,000, it was probably 50. At least they do that at WrestleMania. It's like 111,000. It was probably 90,000 people, but they're going to say a huge number. But your point.
Well, there are a lot of arguments for why this is happening. I just wanted to show this clip from when Tim brought this up on the show, because it was getting a lot of attention from people who don't follow him.
High 40s because Gen Z can't sell tickets. There's no young people, so they're constantly trying to market to whatever the biggest market share is going to be, which is older people. I was looking up the top 10 selling artists of 2024 ticket sales. Who do you guys think is the biggest?
Taylor Swift.
No.
Morgan Wallen.
No. Those are good guesses. They're both on the list.
Morgan Wallen is a good guess.
It's Coldplay.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I believe it was Coldplay. And there was only one Gen Zer on the list of the top 10. One Gen Z. Who do you guys think it is? You're young. What's your answer?
I guess Sabrina Carpenter, I think.
Sabrina Carpenter?
Nope. She's nowhere near the top 10.
Wow. Ensign Boone?
Nope.
No.
Guess.
Anybody got a better guess?
Billie Eilish?
Nope.
No.
No idea.
Olivia Rodrigo.
Well, yeah, they were going for the free Plan B.
Right.
She was like,
And the lube.
You're young.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing that on the show.
Yeah, there's the
number 6. I was surprised to see this because in the late 90s into the 2000s, we had a lot of pop stars who were 18, 19, and 20. Very, very young. The average age right now, I think, is 48 years old.
Wow.
For a top performing artist. In the 2000s, it was your 30s because you still had the Rolling Stones that were touring really well. You still had Kiss. So the older people skewed with the younger people and created the median around like the 30s. Now it's high 40s because Gen Z can't sell tickets, and so
Bro, math is hard.
He's right. He is right about there are fewer young people to market things to, and so having things that are geared towards young people is actually a losing. It's a loser.
Yeah.
You want to gear towards Gen X or millennials. So he's got a great point with that. But
the youth generation is in absolute numbers smaller than it used to be,
and it's
They're
decentralized.
Also, decentralized entertainment. The youth generation is so fragmented in what they consume in media. They oftentimes don't see the importance in attending live music because they can stream anything they want or scroll TikTok, consume social media content. And also, a huge reason that people were echoing in the comments is that they're poor, and tickets for concerts like this almost anywhere are prohibitively expensive for Gen Z. One said nosebleed seats are $150 each now. Most people can't afford that.
Yep.
And lots of people were just saying that it's unaffordable, and that's the main reason. But there are many reasons.
Everything's
that converge.
marketed towards millennials. Like it was like when Matt Walsh, fuddy-duddy Matt Walsh, in his post about Fantastic Four, the stretchy guy and the guy who's on fire and stuff like that. But because those movies are advertised towards millennials, because comic books as a medium spoke heavily to Gen X, and I don't even think of millennials necessarily, but Gen X specifically, and maybe the oldest of the millennials. And I was like, Herbie would have sold a lot of toys if these movies were actually made for kids. Herbie the robot in the movie. But when they made Grogu merchandise, it's millennials.
Yes.
It's millennials buying the Grogu merchandise, not the kids.
Right. And also, since we mentioned what is marketed to the youth generation now, I found it interesting. I saw someone point out that, like, back in the 90s or the 2000s, new artists would kind of just get signed for being normal people with okay singing voices and a catchy tune. And now you have to have some weird gimmick. Like, Billie Eilish is like, I like dye my hair and I have crazy acrylic nails and I wear all these chains around my neck and I have a spider coming out of my mouth. And it's like a lot of accoutrement, not a lot of talent.
That's because you have to give people something to look at on TikTok or Instagram.
When
like
it
the
used
idea
to be
of
like
just being an artist that produces music is
right.
It's an old hat now.
Used to be making my way downtown, walking fast. Like it used to just be like a good song written by a brunette girl who looks normal.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Like-
but she was cute. Like you had to be attractive. You couldn't
Sure.
be, you couldn't look like a foot.
Yeah.
But you didn't have to look weird, and now you have to look weird.
Yeah.
There's no choice in the matter. In fact, Chapel Roan wasn't successful until she started performing in drag.
She looks like
And until she dyed her hair like fire truck red, no one paid attention to her. She was working for a decade, and now Chapel Roan doesn't want to work at all. She has commented recently in an interview about how her second album is not going to come out for the next 5 years. This bitch doesn't want to work. She said, the second project doesn't exist yet. There's no album. There's no collection of songs. It took me 5 years to write the first one, and it's probably going to take at least 5 to write the next. I'm not that type of writer that can pump it out. I don't think I can make good music whenever I force myself to do anything. I see comments sometimes like, she's everywhere except that damn studio. Even if I was in the studio 12 hours a day every day, that does not mean you would get an album any faster.
Phil, I have to ask a question here, because I'm like, okay, there's a huge gap between like having it out tomorrow and 5 years.
5 years is crazy.
Like, am I just naive to the music industry, or is 5 years a reasonable amount of time?
I think, I mean, it depends on what the artist is trying to do, right? If you're trying to put your name on the map and trying to, you know, build a career, you can't go 5 years. You have to, you go on, basically, you put your record out. Nowadays, it's a little different. You'll put your first single out, you'll put out a few singles, and then you'll release the record. You'll probably be touring leading up to the release. You'll be on tour when the record's released. You'll tour for 12 to 18 months, and then you'll get done with that, and you'll go right into the studio and do another record because you're trying to build a fan base. Who's this person?
Chapel Roan.
Okay, Chapel Roan. She's got a fan base, I imagine, I think.
Yes.
Or at the very least, she has the backing of, you know, the industry, as in her label and record label, etc. She probably has the option of saying, well, I don't have to rush something out. You know, like we put a record out in 2018, and then we didn't put another record out until 2025.
Yeah, but you had a longer established career before.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. Like, we had a career. Like, we did a tour in 2022 when we hadn't done a tour in probably 3 years, and it was a tour to, you know, to celebrate a record that came out in 2006, and there were a boatload of shows, sold out shows. Our fans came out to see the shows, so, you know, it was a great tour, and it was cool. But we have a 20-year career. We have a lot of hits. We have a fan base that loves to hear our stuff, and they'll come out to see us. If you're trying to establish yourself, it's not a good idea to wait that long. And you honestly, it's probably better to put, you know, 4 songs out in a year, maybe 5 songs in a year, and release stuff as frequently as possible, so that way you keep continuing to feed the algorithm, continuing to feed your fan what you hope to become your fan base, you know.
Right, but she literally just broke out into the mainstream, and she's planning on basically going on hiatus at this point.
I think she's just the top mod on r/anti-work.
And she's also, like, on top of that, donating so much of her money to causes so that her fans aren't going to jump down her throat for not being a good enough activist. She's just not... She's on track to be remembered the way that we remember Sky Ferreira at this point.
I don't remember Sky Ferreira.
Exactly. Okay. Like, huge potential, but just thrown away on conceits about artistic integrity that are actually veil for laziness. And also, all of these attitudes that they have toward the music industry. I think you were on the show when we talked about this. Chapel Roan going on this massive rant at an award show about how the music labels mistreat their artists and they need to provide free healthcare and blah, blah, blah.
That's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard
in my life. And the idea that the music label is somehow stealing your music from you by giving you a record deal, which I saw, thankfully, one Gen Z artist, Grace Vanderwall, pushed back on that, saying, you know, you signed the damn contract. It's also theirs.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Is there any part of you that like doesn't care about even owning those that catalog anymore? Because a lot of people splitting from labels recently.
Obviously, I don't own anything.
Yeah.
Okay, can I say something about that?
Sure.
This is something that's wildly misunderstood. If people are like, oh, they stole your music, again, this caricature of like the music industry and what people want it to be for this dramatic value. I mean, does it suck? Yes. Did I sign a literal contract saying that that would happen? Also, yes. Like,
I like that girl.
You know, am I the happiest about it? No, but is there anyone to blame? No one did anything wrong. It's just life kind of sucks sometimes, and it's just the way it goes. Like, it's just the way it goes. Like, no one was the big bad wolf stealing Grace's music away from her. It's just, it goes that way because it's, like I explained, it's kind of like Shark Tank. If like I made a sponge or some sort of invention and then an investor, we are now you and me. It's not just me, the owner. We're a combined company, metaphorically.
Really smart.
So all that music isn't Grace. I didn't make that. It's Grace and Columbia, whatever you're signed to, as, you know, a collaboration. Which always made sense to me. And people don't understand that. I'm like, I don't know.
Healthy,
common
though.
sense.
It is common sense.
And then the comments were just tearing her up.
Of course.
People who have no idea what they're talking about, saying that this is such an L take.
No, it's not an L take. You people are idiots.
Well, I mean,
Like,
because
she's
most
exactly
of the time,
right.
the record label's fronting the money to get the album
Yes.
made anyway.
Yes.
Like, this is not hard to understand.
Why would they do
And
that
people
just
don't
for
understand-
fun?
And they never want to admit that they could go independent if they wanted, but they
Yeah.
wouldn't have the reach and it wouldn't succeed.
People don't think about the fact that a label will put out, say they have they'll put out 10 artists, or they'll put money into 10 artists, and they'll put $500,000 or $1 million into each of those artists, right? And maybe one of them will make enough money where they make back their investment, right? So the amount of money that a label spends to create an artist, which is essentially building a product, right? There's so many things that can go wrong, and it's such a big risk. Labels have to do things like say, all right, we need to make sure that if one of these kids or one of these people writes one hit, we have to be able to make enough money off of that one hit to cover all of these kids or all these artists. Maybe none of them hit. Maybe 3 of them hit. And then the label's like, yeah, cool, we made a bunch of money. But it's completely likely that none of them will have an actual big hit. And if none of them have a big hit, then the label's lost $10 million.
Yeah, nobody ever wants to admit that the person who's funding the business is the one who takes all the risk.
And
if
I
it
don't
doesn't work out.
I don't want to sound like I'm defending labels at all, because look, All That Remains has made tens of millions of dollars, probably, maybe, I mean, I don't know exactly, but I wouldn't be surprised if we made, dozens of millions of dollars for our label over the course of our career, right? And All That Remains as a band hasn't received millions of dollars for making that. But All That Remains has a career. If I want to go on tour, I can go on tour whether we put out a record or not, whether we have new product. I can go ahead and call our label, not our label, call our manager and call our booking agent and say, hey, book us a tour. And I can go out there and we can make money. Yeah. We can make sure that people will come to the show, people will buy our merch, we'll make money. Like, that isn't something to ignore. It's like that doesn't happen just because of All That Remains. It was a business deal, a partnership between the label and the artist. And
we have a
people forget about that.
20 from Shane H. Wilder. Look at it this way. Alice Cooper is 78, doing 150 shows a year and still putting out new albums every 2 years. He dropped The Revenge of Alice Cooper 2 weeks ago, reuniting the original band, and it topped the charts. I also wanted to mention, the only problem with what Grace Vanderwall said is that she signed that contract, or rather her parents signed that contract when she was 12 or 13 years old. So maybe you could say there need to be more protections for minors that sign with record deals. Sure. But aside from that, Taylor Swift is not a victim.
When that much money, and for most of the artists, when that much money is pooled into one large conglomerate, they have all the power, because they can just say no. If you say, I want this part of the deal to change, just say, no, that doesn't work for us. We'll find somebody else.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.